You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
It's Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app, and we are a little more than an hour in to the curfew, which was announced earlier this evening by LA Mayor Karen Bass. At this point, there's not much to report as far as violations of the curfew. We have not heard anything. Now, there is some video that we've seen. We'll get Daniel to pull it up of LAPD downtown. They have affected some arrests. You could see that they have people against the wall arresting. We can't know necessarily whether it's for a curfew violation in and of itself, or was it some act of vandalism and curfew violation. But for the most part, LAPD seems to be in a somewhat relaxed posture. It's not like they are being confronted by any wall of protesters. At this point, there's not a lot of activity going on downtown. And I don't know of any other activity around Southern California as far as other protests which may be going on. And that's a good thing. I'm always hoping for the best. I don't want any type of violence. I don't want any type of vandalism. I don't want any type of looting. We just had a good half-hour discussion about what effective protests are and the strategy which should be employed for a particular goal. More times than not, you don't see that enacted. You don't see that strategy employed. And so we just have what I call these aimless acts of exercise, where they're not actually protesting, they're not actually marching, they're just kind of walking aimlessly with no specific location, destination in mind. But if you missed the message from, or at least a portion of the message announcing the curfew, I think it's good to play it again. So if you're just tuning in, you didn't hear it earlier when Mayor Bass was speaking during the Tim Conway Jr. show, or you didn't hear LAPD Chief Jim McDonald speaking during the Tim Conway Jr. show. Here was their initial update, just a portion of it, so you know that the curfew was announced, its parameters and boundaries, and also the expectations of anyone who expects to go anywhere near downtown.
Many businesses have now been affected by or vandalized. Last night, there were 23 businesses that were looted. And I think that if you drive through downtown LA, the graffiti is everywhere and has caused significant damages to businesses and a number of properties. So my message to you is, if you do not live or work in downtown LA, avoid the area. Law enforcement will arrest individuals who break the curfew, and you will be prosecuted. Hundreds of officers from police and sheriff departments from across the region and state are working alongside LAPD through a unified command structure. The curfew will be in place tonight from 8 p.m. until 6 a.m. I want to thank the governor for his partnership, and especially thank our state and local leaders and deputies, officers and deputies who are working tirelessly. So curfew guidance, again, it will begin at 8 p.m. tonight and go until 6 a.m. tomorrow. I will consult with elected leaders and law enforcement officials tomorrow on the continuation of the curfew, but we certainly expect for it to last for several days. The curfew area will be between the 5 freeway and to the 110, and the 10 freeway to where the 110 freeway and 5 freeway merge. You look at the map, and you can see that the city of Los Angeles is a massive area, 502 square miles. The area of downtown where the curfew will take place is 1 square mile. I think it is important to point this out, not to minimize the vandalism and violence that has taken place there. It has been significant, but it is extremely important to know that what is happening in this 1 square mile is not affecting the city. Some of the imagery of the protests and the violence gives the appearance as though this is a citywide crisis, and it is not. So everyone must abide by this curfew. Limited exceptions will apply for residents, people traveling to and from work, and credentialed media representatives.
That was Mayor Bass, a portion of her remarks. If you're looking at our YouTube show, you can see Mayor Bass as she was speaking earlier today. But there was also remarks right after that by LAPD Chief Jim McDonnell. And it's important that we play this so you know exactly what are the expectations surrounding the curfew. Mayor Bass gave you some of the boundaries and the limits, but I think Jim McDonnell better contextualized expectations of you as a resident, maybe if you live in that area, or if you happen to be traveling through that area, or if you're even, if you were to be just thinking of just going down to that area to protest or to hang out, to looky-loo, to get content for social media, don't do it.
As the mayor stated, a curfew for the impacted area, as shown here, will go into effect tonight. And I want to be absolutely clear that if you're within that designated curfew zone between the hours of 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. And are not exempt under the order, you're going to be subject to arrest. The curfew boundaries are as follows: from the 5 freeway to the 110 freeway, and from the 10 freeway to the point where the 110 and the 5 merge. Easier to look at it on that map for description. The curfew is necessary, a necessary measure to protect lives and safeguard property following several consecutive days of growing unrest throughout the city. Since Saturday, we've seen a concerning escalation in unlawful and dangerous behavior. On Saturday, LAPD officers made 27 arrests. On Sunday, that number rose to 40. By Monday, arrests totaled 114, and today alone, we've made 197 arrests. The recent days, it's been as a part of a unified command with our partner agencies who've responded through mutual aid compact and been very, very helpful to us, and we're very thankful for that participation. Of those I mentioned for today, 130 were arrested near Commercial and Alameda. An additional 67 were taken into custody after unlawfully occupying the 101 freeway near Commercial Street. Our CHP partners were instrumental in that. So again, let me be clear that this behavior, blocking freeways, city streets, and on-ramps, refusing to comply with lawful dispersal orders, and interfering with public safety operations is dangerous, unlawful, and won't be tolerated. If you are in the curfew zone during the restricted hours without that legal exemption, you will be arrested. If you assault an officer in any fashion, you will be arrested. We're operating under a unified command with our partners at the Los Angeles City Fire Department, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, the California Highway Patrol. We're fully coordinated, and our shared mission is clear: to restore peace and ensure the safety of everyone in our city. We previously mobilized part of our department at LAPD while keeping our ability to be able to provide the services that our community deserves going. We're going to be adding to that deployment with additional internal LAPD resources in the days ahead. The curfew does not apply to residents within the designated area, individuals experiencing homelessness, credentialed media, or public safety and emergency personnel. To be clear again, that's not about silencing voices or suppressing lawful protest. When that expression crosses into unlawful conduct, when lives are put at risk, and when our city's safety is compromised, we must act, and we will act. We urge all Angelenos to cooperate with these public safety measures. Our shared goal is to protect our communities and return to a state of calm and safety for everyone. Thank you.
Let me check in with Mark Ronner before we go to the actual news break. Mark, we didn't have a chance to really talk all that much this evening.
Well, there's been a lot going on, and I have been looking at footage of phalanxes of National Guard and cops in riot gear being met with absolutely nobody. So it's good that we're keeping this in perspective. Somebody else pointed out that the core area of protest is roughly 3 to 6 blocks in a city of more than 18 million people. So if you are seeing things on social media suggesting the whole city's on fire or anything like that, that is absolutely false.
And also, for a person who doesn't live here, oftentimes people will mistake Los Angeles City for Los Angeles County. Los Angeles County has about 8 million people, and a lot of cities, actual cities within it, of course, and unincorporated areas. LA City has about 3 million people. And for a person who doesn't understand the topography out here, they're not the same. In other words, what happened in Santa Ana, that's Orange County. Maybe to a person who lives in New York, it's all LA to him or her, but it's definitely not LA. And we'll have other pockets of protests which are not in LA City, but they're in LA County, like Paramount. And we saw those protests. And for a person who doesn't quite understand how this place is all connected, it's not LA City. Now, what's happening downtown? Most definitely LA City. And what's not happening right now downtown is LA City. Absolutely nothing. We have dozens and dozens of what I think are LAPD officers standing, waiting. Hopefully nothing will happen. And I say that in a very positive way because I don't want anything to jump off downtown. But I can confidently say from what we've seen, what has been reported, what we know in our own investigations here at KFI AM 640 24-hour newsroom, there's nothing of note happening downtown. And we'll see if that stays at least for the rest of the evening. Mark Ronner will be with you until midnight. I will be with you until 10 p.m.
Stay till midnight.
No, that's okay. I don't like you that much.
No, we'll be here together. It'll be fun.
No. My wife is listening right now, and she probably...
You think she wants you home?
No. I don't think that. I think she wants me... Well, put it this way. She probably wants me to do the dishes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And do, honeydew stuff. I don't think she wants me at home for me.
Honeydew.
She wants me to do stuff which accommodates her. And I'm usually the one who does the dishes because when I come in, whatever dishes are in the sink, that's my responsibility.
Okay, go ahead and flee like a dirty coward then.
Yeah, but look, I'm not going to do them at 1 a.m. if I leave here at midnight. What's in it for me? It's all about me, Mark. You're the one who brought that up. What's in it for me?
Well, the camaraderie of working together during breaking news, of course.
Yeah, we already did that during the fires.
Okay, time for a break.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI AM 640, Mo Kelly here. We're live everywhere on YouTube and the iHeartRadio app. And we said when all of this started days ago that what you see here in Los Angeles, as in the city, from ICE raids and tactics employed would be also used around the country. We said that the protests in response to that, what you see and have seen here in LA, you would also see around the country. As it stands, we're there. Now, it doesn't mean that the protests, and I'm using that word in a general sense, I can't get into what each city is doing individually. And I'm not saying this is a coordinated effort per se, because, Tawala was saying like it's a leaderless movement for the most part. It's not like there's a unifying voice or message being expressed. But we do know that anti-ICE protests have now begun all around the country, including the cities of San Francisco, New York, Washington, D.C., Milwaukee, Dallas, Chicago, and Atlanta. I'm sure on varying levels. Can't speak to the number of protesters or whether it's focused to just one borough in New York or one portion of the city in Atlanta or one area of Dallas, or there are multiple areas. But now we are getting reports that there are similar anti-ICE protests in all of these cities. Now, all those cities are obviously later in the evening than here, with the exception of San Francisco in the same time zone. Tomorrow will give us a better sense of whether these protests are just more numerous in cities or whether they're actually growing in each of the cities, and also more cities are coming to these protests or this sentiment. These are the things that we've been looking out for and watching, and don't know what's going to happen in each city. Each city is very different. If you know anything about Atlanta, it's a different social ethic than Los Angeles. If you know anything about Washington, D.C., very different. And we don't know how what happens in one city will either inspire other cities to also protest. We don't know whether ICE will intensify its efforts because of the protests. Is it the actions of ICE which are spurring on the protests? So the protests at this point, are they spurring on ICE? Because we do know that if violence should break out, that is a favorable optic for the Trump administration to do more of what they want to do and have planned to do.
But that right there, the point you just made, are you protesting ICE as a government body and just an organization in general in these other states and other cities? Because ICE has, as of yet, not descended anywhere else but Los Angeles. So if you are in Chicago, if you're in Washington, if you're in there are protests going on in Omaha, Nebraska. Okay, got you. But is ICE there actually rounding people up and arresting them? And that's something that I'm like, I don't know if you're calling ICE to your area and calling attention to yourselves or what.
Right. Because if it's the goal of the Trump administration, I say if, because I can't get my mind into the Trump administration, but if it's the goal of the Trump administration to escalate these protests or foment violence, then if I'm the Trump administration and I see a large protest in, let's say, Atlanta or New Orleans, then I'm going to send ICE to those cities to further stir up some stuff. And if there's violence, then I'll send in the National Guard. Yeah. And then I'll send in the Marines and so forth. It's kind of like rinse and repeat for the cities. And we know that what was happening and has been happening in LA is a testing ground for other cities, not only for the Trump administration, but also for mayors. Don't think for a moment that all these mayors and governors of these different cities and states where there are protests, they're not looking at Los Angeles. They're not in direct contact with Mayor Bass as far as what should we be on the lookout for? What type of tactics are being employed? Are they going to churches? Are they going to schools? What type of tactics are they using to get into these semi-public spaces? Because we had talked about ICE agents do not need a warrant to arrest people or detain people in public spaces. And a school is considered a public space. A church in the front area, like the communal areas of a church, is considered a public space. Obviously, a Home Depot parking lot is considered a public space. That's why I'm quite sure Council of Mayors, all these mayors are in contact with each other, even though Mayor Bass hasn't said it. Look, if you're worried about ICE coming to your city, who's the first person you're going to call? Mayor Bass. You're going to call her office and see what they are seeing, what they are experiencing. Like, for example, we know that ICE is going to elementary schools. Yep. That would be important for another city to know in the event that they should show up where? Miami. In the event that they should show up where? Detroit, Arab American population. In the event that they should show up in any community where there is a high influx of foreign individuals. I can't even say just Hispanics. I mean, it's more than that. We could have a situation where they go back to Ohio and, they target the Haitian population. We talked about that during the presidential election. So this is now just coming into focus as far as the national implications of what has been happening here in Los Angeles. This story is now just getting started beyond what you and I are seeing in our city right here. This is going to play out all around the country, and it's already started.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI Mo Kelly, live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Try a little experiment. I want you to imagine for a moment that you did not turn on the TV for the past 4 days. How aware of this unrest and protest would you be? How aware? I remember during the 1992 Rodney King riots, you could see the flames. You could see it light up the sky. You could see, well, put it this way, I lived in the LA area, all right, so I'm a little closer than most. But you could see law enforcement and the National Guard all up and down the LA corridor. You didn't need TV, okay? Because people were on their roofs trying to protect their houses and businesses, and you could see the businesses light up the sky when they're being burned down. There was no question about what was going on. If you weren't watching the TV in LA for the past 4 or 5 days, unless you actually happened upon, downtown, or you were on the 101 when they were disrupting and blocking the freeway, I don't know how many people would even know what was going on. And I mean that sincerely, because you had last night the LA Sparks game downtown, crypto.com, walking distance from the protest. And they were protests. There was no real, rioting, air quotes, last night. Was there looting? Was there lawlessness? Yes, but that's not the same thing. Mm-hmm. There was the BET Awards downtown at the convention center, walking distance from everything that was going on. That was last night. The first night, you had a soccer match at BMO Stadium, 5 miles from downtown. You had the Pride Parade, a couple miles from downtown. This is a very specific area, or has been heretofore, has been a very, very specific area within downtown. And if you are just watching it on TV, you think it's like most of the city. You think it's like, oh my gosh, it's taking the LA's in chaos and burning. No, it isn't. I am 7 miles from downtown. I promise you, there are days and I drive through downtown every single day. In fact, Tawala, you were nice enough to let me know, hey, don't get on the 101.
But it's not, don't come in. It's just go around. Take the other way around.
That was not the case in 92. It was a citywide curfew.
You know what's different, especially because now you have social media fanning these unnecessary flames. I remember being in Pasadena when the Rodney King verdict riots hit, and it was within a day that it spread all the way to Pasadena with the curfew alone. It was massive. It was citywide, and it spread like wildfire. There were Altadena sheriffs. There's LAPD.
Yep.
Go home. Curfew. We had cop cars going down the street. There is a curfew in effect. Go home.
Beyond the borders of Los Angeles.
Beyond the borders of Los Angeles, yes.
It's interesting because, I love to trade with people on social media. Some are good-natured, some are in good faith, and a lot of people are just trolls, and a lot of people are in bad faith. But when I had someone today who was trying to argue with me about the state of L.A. from frickin' Arizona, it's like, get the hell out my face. I can open my door, and the moment I step outside, I'm in the city of L.A. I can get in my car and drive about maybe 10 minutes with no traffic to downtown via surface streets and drive right through everything which is going on. It's weird how people who are not in any way connected to this, that's why I said, like, imagine, turning off your TV, how basically everyone has gone about their lives. There haven't been the types of disruptions. Look, the Dodgers celebration after winning the World Series in both 2020 and 2024, or the Lakers when they won the championship in 2020, those were more violent, comparatively speaking. I mean, if you want to look it up for yourself, the facts are what the facts are. And, we didn't bring in the National Guard for the Lakers or the Dodgers. We didn't. What happened in Philadelphia after the Super Bowl? Didn't bring in the National Guard. So we can have a conversation, or we can have an honest conversation. But not everyone is interested in an honest conversation. And also, Twella, let me say thank you for giving me the heads up that the 101 was being shut down, because I was thinking about taking the 101 because it was so bad on the 110 and it was bad on the 5. What I didn't know that people were trying to get to the 5 because they didn't want to be on the 101.
Oh.
Because
I forgot about that detour.
Yeah. People were getting on the 2 freeway. If you know how it's all laid out, going from just between the 101 and the 5. So it kind of messed up everything. It was a kind of a cascading effect. But I made it here. But for the most part, and I say that to say, for the most part, our lives have not been disrupted as Angelenos. And I'm speaking as an Angeleno. And with the exception of maybe Fork Reporter, I think we're maybe equidistant from downtown. We're very close without giving out exactly where he lives. We're about equidistant from downtown. There's no one at KFI who's closer to this than me. There's no one. I live this. I live in the city of LA. I deal with this. I was here for 1992. I was here for 2020. I have a point of reference as much as people want to deny what my actual reality is. Has there been violence? Absolutely. Were some Waymos set on fire? Absolutely. Has there been looting? Yes. Are we talking about 2020? Heck no. Are we talking about 1992? F no.
Yeah.
And there is a portion of society today who is wish casting, who wants this to be 1992. I'm sorry, I lived through it. It's not. It honestly is not. And people want to point to, well, we got the National Guard, we got Marines here. This ain't 1992. This, LAPD, to their credit, CHP, to their credit, LA County Sheriff's Department, to their credit, which is not LA City, they have done a superb job, a spectacular job with the management of this. And I don't care who gets the credit. I don't get in all that. All I'm saying is they've done a wonderful job managing this, having a plan, enacting it. We talked with Michael Monks last night, and we wondered, well, maybe we should have a curfew to deter people coming down early enough. Then they brought it the next night. We didn't have any real issues last night. We didn't have any real issues tonight. It's a win, as far as I'm concerned, unless you're wish casting, hoping for something else. And there are those who are hoping for something else. That's just not me.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI AM 640. Mo Kelly here. We're still live on the iHeartRadio app. We're still live on YouTube. Thank you for all those Momigos who are in the Motown chat. We appreciate you. It was a very robust discussion tonight. Got a little heated and emotional at times, but these are the times that we're living in now. Emotions are running high. And before we close out tonight, I was having a conversation with Tuwala off air before the show. And we were kind of bouncing around, not to predict, but to look at the landscape and how news cycles work, how long this round of protests would go, or at least the ICE raids. And I was of the opinion, and Mark, I would love to get your insider input as best you can as a news person. But I was of the opinion that these ICE raids are not going to go much longer in this week. Now, they may resume next week, but they're not going to go too far into this week. And here is my thinking. We know that they have the 250th birthday of the Army parade, which also coincides with the birthday of the president this Saturday. I don't think there's any way in the world that the president would risk having any other news step on that parade, even protests, violent or otherwise. I'm pretty sure he would want all the focus, as far as news focus, on him, on the parade. Now, would he want the protests as a lead-in? Absolutely. 100%. Absolutely. Because, this kind of sets the stage for that. But if there were major protests or violence breaking out from coast to coast over the weekend, and it is, you're more prone to have violence over the weekend because, like I said, over the weekend, that's when people have the most idle time. They're not going to work for the most part. You're going to see stuff more likely jump off on a Friday night or Saturday night as opposed to a Monday or Tuesday night, as we've seen here. Less has been going on this Monday and Tuesday as opposed to the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I suspect that given this parade in celebration of the Army and also the president's birthday, that we'll probably see fewer ICE raids before the end of the week as to not step on the parade. What say you, Tuwala?
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree with that. His ego cannot allow for something to step on this moment. He's probably already informed all the other world leaders, hey, I want you to tune in on Saturday and see my parade.
Oh, sure.
See what I have lined up. You guys may have your marches and your parades and all of that, but you haven't seen anything until you've seen what I've got coming up.
If you have KCAL and KTLA and KNBC and KCBS and KCOP and Fox 11 all covering, let's say, an LA protest, and in the cable channels covering a major protest and not the parade, oh, no. That would not be the goal. That would not be the lick, as they say.
No. He's not looking forward to that. He is looking forward to all eyes being on his celebration. And as you said, he is, in all likelihood, using this moment to amp up and lead towards his grand speech or whatever it is he has to say. I told you what I was going to do, America, and I did it. I'm rounding them up. I'm getting them out.
That's got to be a part of it.
He wants to phrase it. That's what he's going to do.
Mark Ronner, how would you contextualize this moment?
Well, we know there's going to be protests all over the country for the weekend, especially protests. In addition to the ICE raids, the parade, because it's important to point out that we haven't seen a parade like that in the United States. And if you look at a map of protest points that we know about, the map's covered. I mean, there's no empty space on
and
the
inclusive
map.
Of DC. So
yeah, and we also know that Trump said he's going to come down hard on people who do protest that parade. So anything could happen. I mean, I think we should be prepared to get called into work.
Oh man, you mean I'm not going to get Saturday off?
Well, I don't know. We have perfectly capable people here at KFI over the weekend, but we should be ready for anything to happen because protests are guaranteed. We know how Trump treats protesters as of now, right here in LA, and so we should not be surprised if things turn pear-shaped.
It's not abstract. To your point, Mark, we know what the president has said very recently. He said something to the effect, paraphrasing, that if they're protests, they'll be treated with strongly. They'll be met with force. I would look at that as a point of instigation and a dare. But the protests have already started. They've already started in Washington, D.C. So, yeah, would they protest the parade? Yeah. How close in proximity? I don't know. And I don't like making predictions, big picture, but I think this is one that I feel comfortable in making, that if there's any type of worry about the news cycle, this is very important to the president. He's made that very clear. And since his first administration, his first term, that he wanted this parade. This is a big freaking deal to him.
Yeah.
The last thing he wants is for it not to be the center of attention. That's just not what he would want. And what could be the center of attention? These other protests. If they get out of hand or they get so numerous that media is pulled in all sorts of directions and they don't focus in on the parade and his birthday. And again, I don't know what happens, but I do know how media works generally. And media is more apt to go to where the action is. A parade is not action.
No, it's not hot.
It's not.
A parade is not hot.
It's not something that if you're a network that you're going to spend, let's say, an hour on when there's protests, unrest, what have you, going on all around the country. Possibly, presumably. Look, I love the Hollywood Christmas parade. I'm not spending an hour watching it. I love the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. I'm not watching it for an hour. I love the Rose Parade. I'm not watching that for an hour, especially if there's other stuff more pressing going on, in the news of the moment. The parade, I can watch that on YouTube. I'm just being honest,
Yeah.
And ratings are very important to the president. This is a big deal. It's his 79th birthday and the 250th anniversary of the Army. Big deal. You don't want anyone to step on his moment. We'll see what happens, as he says. KFI AM 640, we're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
KFI and KOST HD2, Los Angeles, Orange County. More stimulating talk.